Good afternoon, all the students. We are left out with three more topics related to reinforcement learning. We'll cover that in this week. Yeah, in the previous class, we understood about case-based reasoning. Means if there are any similar type of problems solved already, they will be stored in a library so that if at all that kind of problems recur or we come across similar type of problems, then the system can refer to the previous solutions to the problems of same kind, and that solutions can be adopted to our current problems. If at all there are no such already well proven solutions available, then new solutions can be designed and they can be stored into the repository or the library so that they can serve as solution to future similar problems. Okay, that is the main theme of case based reasoning, referring to the existing solutions in order to find solutions to current problems, right? In today's class, we are going to understand about reinforcement learning. What is reinforcement learning? Say one agent is taking some actions in an environment in order to move from one state to another state. In that case, it will be rewarded if it is taking a correct step, or it will be penalized if it is taking a wrong step, right? Such kind of feedback will be available from the environment so that the objective of the agent is to increase the cumulative reward. Cumulative reward means adding up all the rewards. Say for the first step, it has been given 90 points. For the second step, it has been given 100 points. For the third step, it has been given 95 points. Now 90 plus 100 plus 95 is called as cumulative addition. Okay, cumulative addition of the rewards. Now in the first step 90 plus second step 100 plus third step 95, adding up together, adding up all these rewards together is called as cumulative rewards. Okay, now when an agent is taking steps to move from one position to another position or from one state to another state, it will be given some feedback from the environment. Now based on that feedback, rewards or punishment will be given. Now if rewards are given, they are like positive points. If punishment is given, they are like negative points. Okay, now when the rewards are given, all these rewards will be added, and the objective of the agent for acting in that environment is to maximize this cumulative rewards. Okay, so it is increasing its positive impression of the teacher in the environment or of the trainer in the environment. Okay, that is called as reinforcement learning. It is reinforced by some set of rewards in order to learn something, in order to learn a task. Okay, say if it is taking one step, it is being punished, then it will automatically immediately learn that it should not take that particular step. Now it is taking another step into get transformed into another state. Now it is being given a reward. When it is being given a reward, it is like positive feedback. So it will understand that yes, this step is anticipated at this current state. So I should now hereafter take step in this direction, not in this direction. Right? That is understood. That is learned by the learner. That reinforcement, that support is provided by giving rewards or penalties. Okay, that is the main notion behind this reinforcement learning. Now, reinforcement learning is about how an autonomous agent that senses and acts in its environment can learn to choose optimal actions to achieve its goals. Goals can be many. Maybe it has to reach a particular destination, or it has to learn how to cook, or it has to learn how to play, or it has to learn how to walk. Lots of end goals may be there for a learning subject. Say a toddler is learning how to walk. Now, if he walks in a particular manner, he may fall down. Falling down is a penalty he immediately got from the environment, direct feedback. Seeing the direct feedback, it will understand that I should not walk in this way. Now it walks in a particular way. Yes, it is walking comfortably. It is going forward towards some object. Then immediately toddler understands that yes, this is the correct step I have to take, because it got a positive feedback from the environment by not falling. That is how it understands how to walk. That is how it learns how to walk. This is the simplest example of reinforcement learning, right? Based on the environment's direct or indirect feedback, the agent in the environment learns some task, right? So read this now. Reinforcement learning is about how an autonomous agent, individual agent, independent agent that senses and acts in this environment. Senses means senses the circumstances in the environment and tries to take some action in the environment, can learn to choose optimal actions to achieve its goals. It is not only choosing actions, it is choosing optimal actions. It can go in a direction, it can go in a particular direction, that is choosing an action. But how soon it can reach the destination by taking some optimal steps. That is called as optimal approach. It is trying to optimize its learning task. Okay, so it in its environment can learn to choose optimal actions to achieve its goals. So what are the appropriate actions, optimal actions? That is the matter of concern here. Not only taking actions but appropriate actions. Now tasks such as learning to control a mobile robot, learning to optimize operations in factories, so that lesser resources are used and greater production is done. That is called as optimization only, right? And learning to play board games. Playing is one thing, playing in an optimal way is another good thing. Why? Because only if a player plays optimally, taking right decisions and each and every board state, he can win, right? So learning to play board games, all these are tasks which can be refined by using reinforcement learning. Now, each time the agent performs an action in its environment, a trainer may provide a reward or penalty to indicate the desirability of the resulting state. Sometimes the environment itself will give it a direct feedback. Sometimes it will get a feedback, indirect feedback from the trainer in the environment. Okay, so each time the agent performs some action of taking a step forward or taking a step left or towards the right in an environment, a trainer may provide a reward appreciating its action or penalty blaming its action to indicate the desirability of the resulting state. If it is rewarded about the action, then this resulting state is desirable. But if it is not getting a reward, if it is getting a penalty, then it indicates that the resulting state is not desirable. It should not take step in that particular direction. That is why a penalty point is given to it. Got it? That is how agent will get rewards or penalties directly from the environment or indirectly from a trainer. Now the task of the agent is to learn from its indirect delayed reward. Delayed reward means it doesn't know what would be the reward until it takes the action. If it knows prior, then it will not take that action, right? Until it takes some action, whether it is anticipated or not, whether it is the correct step or not, it doesn't know. That is why it will get a delayed reward. Only when it takes the action, it will be given a reward. Got it, students? The task of the agent is to learn from this indirect, delayed reward to choose sequences of actions that produce the greatest cumulative reward. So how should be the sequence of actions? One step after the other step, one action after the other action should be in such a way that the cumulative rewards are maximized. The value of the cumulative rewards are more. If the value is very less, then in the sequence of actions, it has taken many wrong steps and only one or two right steps. That is why it got less cumulative reward. But if all the steps are appropriately taken, optimally taken, then it will produce the greatest cumulative reward. And the task of the agent is to learn such greatest cumulative reward. Take sequence of actions such that it can accumulate more positive points than negative points, more rewards than penalties. Right? In that way, you should understand. Now, Q learning algorithm can require optimal control strategies from delayed rewards, even when the agent has no prior knowledge of effects of its action on the environment. Now, in this reinforcement learning, you are going to study about Q learning algorithm. In this Q learning algorithm, it can acquire optimal control strategies from delayed rewards. It can understand, it can learn the control strategies, optimal control strategies from these delayed rewards provided by the environment, even when the agent has no prior knowledge of the effects of its actions on the environment. So when it takes a particular step, what would be the effect? Whether it will get a reward or penalty, it doesn't know before itself. In that environment, how to learn an optimal control strategy from the delayed rewards only, that is enabled by Q learning algorithm. Now consider building a learning robot. Robot starts learning about everything, right? About its surroundings, about how to respond to human interaction, about how to respond to human queries, about how to serve the requests of human queries, or answer to them, or search in the web and answer them, like that. Say, if you ask Siri something randomly, then if the information is available on the web, it searches. If it is available in its database of answers, well-defined answers, it can respond from it. Or sometimes it will simply say, I can't get what you are talking about. Can you repeat the question? Like that, right? It is learning. It is trying to learn something from its interaction with the client. Right? So the robot or agent has a set of sensors. In this case, it is little sophisticated robot, not like Siri or Alexa. It is a robot or agent which has a set of sensors to observe the state of its environment and a set of actions it can perform to alter the state. So how it can sense its environment around it? By using some sensors. With the help of the sensor, it can identify whether there is any human or any animal in front of it or beside it, or any car coming in front of it, or from behind, like that. If the sensors are deployed only on the front side, it can sense the environment only in its front. But if the sensors are 360 degrees, then it can sense from all the sides about its environment. Okay, now for example, a mobile robot may have sensors such as camera and sonars. Camera is to have a depiction about its environment, and sonars is to sense some motion around it. If there is any motion of a vehicle or a person, it can sense by using sonars. Okay, sound, navigation, and radiation. And actions such as move forward and turn. So it have some, the mobile robot may have some sensors in order to sense its environment, and it can perform a set of actions such as move forward, turn to the opposite direction, move sideways, move diagonally. All these are set of actions that should be learned by the mobile robot. Now its task is to learn a control strategy. What is the task of the robot now? To learn a control strategy. Underline this, mark this. Control strategy. It is learning a control strategy. It is learning the sequence of steps which are optimal in order to perform a particular task. So its task is to learn a control strategy, or sometimes we call it as policy also. Policy for choosing actions that achieve its goals, its end goal, like answering the customer, or serving the needs of the customer, or giving medicine to the customer, like that. Okay, for example, the robot may have a goal of docking onto its battery charger whenever its battery level is low. For this, what is required? Whenever the battery level of the robot is low, it should sense its environment to see where a plug point is available, and immediately it should dock its dock means connect its charger to the power supply. Okay, that is one way of learning to recharge itself whenever the battery is down. That is one of the tasks a robot can learn. Now we assume that the goals of agent can be defined by a reward function that assigns a numerical value, that is an immediate payoff, to each distinct action the agent may take from each distinct state. Say a robot is in a particular state. Now it should move from this state to next state. In order to move from this state to next state, it has to take some action. Now, whether that action is correct or not, that is decided by its environment. If it takes a correct step, the environment will reward it. If it takes a wrong step, the environment will penalize it. Okay, that is how reward acts as an immediate payoff. It will be in a numerical value. Say if it is taking some positive step, optimal step, 100. If it is taking step in the direction of goal but not optimal, it may give the reward as 90. But if it is entirely taking a wrong step, it can give reward as negative points, say minus 50 or minus 100, like that. Okay, so the reward serves as an immediate payoff to each distinct action the agent may take from each distinct state. Now, for example, the goal of docking to the battery charger, connecting to the battery charger, can be captured by assigning a positive reward, that is plus 100, to state action transitions that immediately result in a connection to the charger, and a reward of 0 to every other state action transition. What do we mean by this? Say the robot sensed that it is having low battery. Now, immediately, if it connects to a power supply, it will be given plus 100 reward points, plus 100 reward points. But for any other action, say it is still searching, or it is neglecting the alarm of low battery, and it is doing some other work, giving importance to some other work, that action is not desirable at that point of time. Because if the battery dies, the robot can no longer perform any action. At that instance, what is the immediate and appropriate action that has to be taken? Connect to a power supply. So only when it connects to that appropriate, when it does that task appropriately, it will get a reward. For any other action, it will get penalty. It will get a negative point, right? This reward function may be built into the robot or known only to the external teacher who provides the reward value for each action performed by the writer. Each action performed by the robot. So who will try to execute this reward function? It can be directly built into the robot, which will reward it when some appropriate action is taken. Means, say when the battery is low, you can give condition, then dock into the charger, give 100 reward points. Else means for any other action, give minus 100 points, like that, right? That program can be built into the robot, or it can be known only to the external teacher. Some indirect feedback means the person who is training the robot can give that feedback as rewarding it if it connects to a charger, and giving penalty if it is not connecting to a charger. Now, the task of the robot is to perform sequences of actions, observe their consequences, and learn a control policy. How a control policy is learned? The robot will perform sequence of actions, one action after the other. Observe their outcomes, consequences. What is the result of taking that particular action? And observing that, it can learn a control policy. It can learn the sequence of steps, whether that sequence is desirable or not, whether it is taking it to the goal state or not. Right? That is called as control policy. Now, the control policy we desire is one that from any initial state chooses actions that maximize the reward accumulated over time by the agent. So what should be the control policy like? The control policy should stick to the idea of increasing the rewards that are accumulated over time. As the time moves on, it takes some steps and it encounters some rewards or penalties, and the objective of this control policy should be to maximize those rewards, accumulated rewards, the points that are gathered by the agent by taking those actions. Okay, that is called, and that is the end goal of any control policy. The control policy should maximize the rewards accumulated and minimize the penalties accumulated. Got it? This general setting for robot learning is summarized in this figure. You can observe here, say this is the agent that is taking some actions in this environment. Now, when an agent is in one state, in an environment, by taking some action, it moves into another state. Now, if that state is desirable, it is given a reward. If that state is not desirable, it is given a penalty. So that is the feedback it receives from the environment in order to learn what is a promising step, what is a good step, and what is a bad step. What is a good action and what is action. Right? So this is just represented in this format. From state S0, by taking action, from state S0, by taking action A0, it can move into next state S1 by accumulating a reward R0. Now from this state of S1, by taking another action A1, it can move into another state S2 by accumulating the second reward R1. And from S2, it can move on to later states by taking subsequent actions and accumulating corresponding rewards or penalties. Now, how should this control policy be selected? In such a way that the rewards are increased, the rewards are maximized, sum of rewards are maximized, and penalties are minimized. Right? So the goal is to learn to choose actions that maximize this mathematical equation R0 plus gamma R1 plus gamma square R2 and so on. Now what is this gamma again? We are already disgusted with so many mathematical concepts so far. Now why we got this gamma again? Actually this is an interesting constant here. Gamma is the delay in receiving the rewards. Understand, students, carefully. Gamma is the delay in receiving the rewards. Now, TechFest is conducted for you. Results are declared immediately after the event and prize amount is given to you within 1 hour of the event. Another scenario is TechFest is conducted to you. Results are not announced until 1 month and prize amount is given only after another 1 month. How do you feel? You just tell me. Where you feel good? Only when results are announced immediately and prize money is given immediately to you. Means immediate reward is more desired than delayed rewards. I'm trying to relate to this point. Understand carefully. Immediate reward is always desired by anyone, even the agent in this environment. Immediate reward is always anticipated, is always desired by any person than delayed reward. Now this gamma is called as the delay. Now as this gamma's values lie between 0 and 1. Now if you keep on increasing this gamma value from 0.1 to 0.9, from 0 to 1, from 0.2 to 0.8 or 9, what you are exactly doing? You are giving importance to the delayed rewards. But if the gamma value is lesser, say 0.1 or 0.2, in that case, you are giving importance to immediate reward. Got it clearly now? Gamma is the time factor here. Gamma is the delay in giving the reward. It gives importance to the time factor. Now, if gamma is very less, you are giving priority to immediate reward. If the gamma is more towards 1, you are giving priority to the delayed reward. Okay, so you anticipate discounted rewards in that case. Means there is lesser importance because the reward is delayed. You lose interest, right? In the same way, delayed rewards will lose their importance in deciding the actions of the agent. Got it what I'm telling? Delayed rewards will reduce the learning capacity of the agent. Immediate rewards will increase the learning capacity of the agent in an environment. Okay, so gamma should be kept as small as possible. Now, the problem of learning a control policy to maximize cumulative reward is very general and covers many problems beyond robot learning tasks. In general, the problem is one of learning to control sequential processes, something like in manufacturing optimization or sequential scheduling in cab services. In all these places, reinforcement learning is being used by learning a control policy, right? Say in manufacturing optimization, if this resource and this resource are joined in order to obtain this resource, will finally give you this product. When you are sequencing such kind of manufacturing steps, if you optimize them, that may increase the production with lesser resource utilization. Means the cost of process should be reduced and the value of the product should be increased. That is called as manufacturing optimization. Resource utilization should be lesser, but the product value should be higher. Productivity should be higher. In such cases, we can use this reinforcement learning. If such and such manufacturing steps are taken, the product value is this. It is increased. If such and such steps are taken, the product value is reduced. So which is the optimal control policy? Obviously the first one, because it is increasing the product value, the end product value, which will in turn increase the profits by lesser resource utilization. That is how reinforcement learning can be used. And sequential scheduling in cab services. Say you book a cab, immediately nearby cabs will be available to you. So how this scheduling is done at the Ola's end or Uber's end? This control policy is a function of wait time of the customer. They try to minimize this wait time of customer, right? And the fuel required to reach the customer, so that they will locate the nearby vehicles, minimize the wait time of the customer, minimize the fuel consumed in order to reach the customer. That is how the fleet is managed in cab services. Fleet means number of taxis they are maintaining. That is how it is scheduled in cab services, right? They are optimizing the user experience, they are enhancing the user experience, optimizing resource utilization like fuel by sequential scheduling, which can be further improved by reinforcement learning. If this and this is the case, say if this taxi reference is given to him, means if this driver is referred to the customer, then how much fuel is consumed in order to reach the customer and how much time he is kept waiting. If that is very minimal, then that is the best step. It will gain high rewards. If it is consuming too much fuel and making the customer wait for a long time, that scheduling that particular cab to that customer is not correct. That will receive a penalty. Okay, that is how reinforcement learning helps to optimize various services, various operations in different domains. Now, what is the problem of learning a control policy? The problem of learning a control policy to choose actions is similar in some respects to the function approximation problem. You know what is function approximation, right? You're given all training examples and a function is made to learn from all those training examples and it will approximate into some linear equation which is in correspondence with the behavior of all those training examples, right? Say I will come out with an equation y equal to ax plus b, which will better explain the behavior of my data. Means if if x is increasing at a particular rate of a, then what would be its effect on y considering an error b? I hope I am very clear. Students, effort should be put from your side. Listen carefully. If there are two variables, say time spent by a student in studying and his marks. Now I come out with a linear equation, marks equal to rate at which time increases or decreases plus some error associated with it. Means whenever I'm trying to explain behavior of two variables, always there would be some approximation. Means there would be some guess related to it. When I'm guessing, always I would have an error associated with it. That is why I'm using this error constant. Okay, now I'm expressing the details of students in my class. There are some 20 students and on x-axis I plot the time spent by them to study for the exam and marks obtained by them. And I'm trying to fit a linear equation like this, which is equal to m equal to RT plus error. This is an approximation because on this line, all the data points doesn't lie. Some data points are here, some data points are here. The distance between the line I am using to describe the behavior of the data and the actual values, that distance is this error. Okay, and R is the slope, the rate at which if time increases, marks increases. Okay, that is given by R. Now, what is my linear equation here? M equal to RT plus error. Got it? That is how I try to do function approximation. Function approximation means I'm fitting this function in order to explain the behavior of the data given to me, training examples given to me. That is called as function approximation, estimation, not deterministic value. I'm not trying to determine it with 100% confidence. I'm always taking a chance that some error will be associated with it. That is why it is called as function approximation. Now, the problem of learning a control policy to choose actions is similar in some respects to the function approximation problems. Yes, we are trying to make a machine learn something. In this case, it learned a linear equation. In another cases, it is trying to classify some customers, or it is trying to classify some transactions as fraudulent or not. In this case, we are trying to approximate some function. But in our present reinforcement learning scenario, it is trying to learn a control policy. It is trying to learn classification. It is trying to learn clustering. It is trying to learn function approximation. Now it is trying to learn control policy. What is the sequence of actions it should take? It is trying to learn in order to accumulate positive impression from the trainer or from the teacher in the environment and reduce the penalties. Got it? So the target function to be learned in this case is a control policy. Let us denote it by pi. Hereafter, when I say pi, you should remember, recollect it as control policy. The control policy or the task or the function here. Pi is mapped from set of states in which an agent can be mapped to set of actions an agent can take in order to go to the next state. Okay, that is how the target function can be represented. Pi is mapped from set of states to set of actions that outputs an appropriate action A from set of actions A given the current state small s from the set of all states capital S. Simple representation, you should understand, students. Now, what is the difference between function approximation and reinforcement learning? Yeah, most of the cases, reinforcement learning is same as function approximation. But what are the underlying differences where you should not get confused between applying reinforcement learning and function approximation problem? One case is with delayed reward. The task of the agent is to learn a target function n. In this case, it is learning a target function n that maps from the current state S. It can be in many of the states, but current state S to optimal state A, so that it receives only reward, no penalty. And that is represented as action A is represented as a function of the control policy which can be taken from a state S. Got it? Now we have always assumed that when learning some target function such as n, each training example would be a pair of the form S and pi of S. S is the state and to which state it should move, pi of S. S is the current state and pi of S is the state into which it should move by taking an optimal action A. Got it? Now in reinforcement learning, however, training information is not available in this form, not at all. When a robot is learning to behave in an environment or do its task in an environment, will it be in the form of training examples, attributes and labels? Do you have, like in your previous cases, when learning is done by the machine learning algorithm? No. It will get data from sensors, it will get data from environment, it will get data from in the form of feedback. The format is entirely different. Instead, the trainer provides only a sequence of immediate reward values. It will have at its disposal only rewards, nothing else. No attributes, no target labels. The trainer provides only a sequence of immediate reward values. If you take this step, this is how I appreciate. If you take this step, this is how I punish you. Only that information is available. The trainer provides only a sequence of immediate reward values as the agent executes its sequence of actions. Got it? So the agent therefore faces the problem of, keyword, remember, temporal credit assignment. So the agent faces the problem of temporal credit assignment. What is this temporal credit assignment? Determining which of the actions in its sequence are to be credited with producing the eventual rewards. If the environment itself is giving it a direct feedback of rewards or penalties, now this agent will be in some confused state whether its actions will be rewarded or not, because prior it doesn't know prior to the to taking the action whether it will be rewarded or not. Still, it gets some feedback from the environment. It can't assign any credit to its action. That is why it is called as temporal credit assignment problem. That is delayed reward. Reward is delayed. Before taking the action, it doesn't know whether that action will be appreciated or punished. Reward is delayed till the action is taken. Okay. Now, another difference is in exploration. In reinforcement learning, the agent influences the distribution of training examples by the action sequence it chooses. Now, this raises the question of which experimentation strategy produces most effective learning. Which control policy has to be the optimal one? That is of question. The learner faces a trade-off in choosing whether to favor exploration, another two keywords, remember, whether to favor exploration of unknown states and actions to gather new information, or exploitation of states and actions that it has already learned will yield higher reward to maximize its cumulative reward. So what is problem here? The agent should maintain a balance between whether to learn a new step or use the existing knowledge. If it takes a new step, whether it will be appropriate or not, whether it will be rewarded or not, it doesn't know. In the same way, the taking a new step is called as exploration. Now, in the same way, if it can use the existing knowledge, that is exploitation, searching through its library of actions in that particular environment from that particular state, whether taking such action will be rewarded or taking a new step whether it will be rewarded. That is how trend makers make a trade-off here. Say in industry, people will start taking risks. Did you observe? Who are very daring, who starts their own business, if they take risks, sometimes they'll win, sometimes they'll lose. Sometimes they'll get reward, sometimes they'll get penalty, right? Who is taking a new step, only they can set a new path. That is different. But whenever they're taking new step, whenever they're starting a new business, everybody will think like this or not. Whether stick to the traditional businesses, whether explore a new business opportunity. If Amazon thought like this, to go to a traditional business of selling in a grocery shop or selling online, if it has to take a decision between these two, when it has come to a point to take decision between these two, it has sensed the market after 10 years that online business will be prevalent. It will have large number of customers worldwide. Expecting that market of this online business, Amazon took the step of exploration than exploitation. You are now able to relate these two terms. They have set a new path. They have set a new history in online business, right? Because they have chosen a new path. They haven't exploited the already existing businesses, already existing paths. Okay, I just told you example to understand what is exploration and exploitation. Now, the agent will have again a dilemma whether explore a new step or exploit an existing step. because that dilemma is because it will not know whether that action will be rewarded or penalized. Okay, that kind of exploration dilemma will exist with the agent in this reinforcement learning. The next difference is with respect to partially observable states. Sometimes the robot may have sensors only in the front. In that case, it will get only partial information about its environment in the front. What about backside? Say some enemy is attacking from the backside for a robo soldier. If it is not able to sense something from the back, then the sole purpose of using a robot is not served. Right? So although it is convenient to assume that the agent sensors can perceive the entire state of the environment at each time step, in many practical situations, sensors provide only partial information. For example, a robot with a forward pointing camera can't see what is behind it. In such cases, it may be necessary for the agent to consider its previous observations. Maybe when it turned backside, that time it would have captured the environment behind. From that, whether it can draw some inferences in order to take its current action. It has to check. In real time, it is not useful, but in some other instances, it may be useful. Previous recording of the environment at the backside can be used to take some step after some time. Okay, in such cases, it may be necessary for the agent to consider its previous observations together with its current sensor data when choosing actions, and the best policy may be one that chooses actions specifically to improve the observability of the environment. So what should be the best policy here for that particular machine? In order to choose actions that will improve its observation capacity of the environment. In that way, its action should be chosen so that it can meet the drawback of partial information, partial sensing of the environment. Now, another difference is lifelong learning. Unlike isolated function approximation tasks, robot learning often requires that the robot learn several related tasks within the same environment using the same sensors. If a robot has to, say, travel, then it has to learn traveling in narrow roads, in state highways, in national highways, in hilly areas. In the same environment, driving environment, using the same sensors, it has to learn several related tasks driving in any of these road conditions. Okay, so function approximation problem is once the training examples are given, a function is approximated from them, and that is the end. But it is not the same case with this robo learning. It has to learn whenever it comes across some special situation. It has learned how to drive in state highways and national highways, but haven't learned driving in hilly areas. But still, it can't avoid itself from driving in hilly areas. It should start learning. It should learn in a reinforced way in the hilly areas also by getting immediate feedbacks from the environment. If it goes in this direction, what will happen? If it goes in this direction, it may go to the tip of the hill, edge of the slope, so it has to turn in this particular way. In the pin curves, it has to take a long turn rather than a quick turn. Like that, it has to learn, and that learning should be continuous. For example, a mobile robot may need to learn how to dock on its battery charger, how to navigate through narrow corridors, and how to pick up output from laser printers. Lots of tasks it has to learn. It has to learn by itself, by learning how the environment responds to its actions. Now, this setting raises the possibility of using previously obtained experience or knowledge to reduce sample complexity when learning new tasks. Okay, so this kind of setting raises the chances of using previously obtained experience. Okay, it already knows driving. It already knows driving on a straight path. Now, that experience can be used to enhance its learning in hilly area driving. right? To reduce sample complexity when learning new tasks. Yes, it is learning a new task of driving on a hilly area, but to reduce the complexity of learning, it is learning from its previous experiences of driving on straight paths and partially using that knowledge to enhance its current learning task. Now, what is the learning task exactly here? Let us formulate the problem of learning sequential control strategies more precisely, which can be done in many ways. For example, we might assume the agent's actions are deterministic or that they are non-deterministic. What is deterministic? If the agent takes some action, if the outcome is predictable with 100% confidence, it is called as deterministic action. But if the outcome is not predictable with sufficient confidence, it is called as non-deterministic. The agent's action is non-deterministic. That outcome is non-deterministic. Okay, in that case, we might assume that the agent can predict the next state that will result from some action, or it can't. So problem can be in two ways. Sometimes the agent can predict what would be the outcome of its action. Sometimes the agent can't predict what would be the outcome of its action. In both the cases, how the learning task has to be formulated. We might assume that the agent is trained by an expert who shows it examples of optimal action sequences, or that it must train itself by performing actions of its own choice. Say, I just give you a textbook and ask you to learn from it. That is called as learn by yourself. But I give you all my lectures and ask you to learn from it. That is called as direct feedback or direct training, right? If I give you a textbook, it is indirect training. If I give you all my lectures, which elaborates all the concepts, it is called as direct training. So problem can be in this case, in this way also. It can be direct training or indirect training. So we might assume that the agent is trained by an expert who shows it examples of optimal action sequences. Learn in this way, you will gain this kind of knowledge. If this is the way of learning an algorithm, this would be the outcome. If I train you in that direction, okay, that is called as direct learning. Or sometimes it must train by itself. Student must learn by himself or herself by performing actions of its own choice. So learning problems can be in this way also. Now here we define one quite general formulation of the problem based on Markov decision process. What does this Markov decision process tells? Each current state is dependent only on its immediate previous state, not on its other previous states. Markov decision process states that the state of the current state of the system depends only on its immediately previous state, not on all its previous states. Okay, that is called as Markov decision process. That would help us in understanding this problem. This formulation of the problem follows the problem illustrated in the first figure we used. We have used the first figure, the agent we have taken, and the environment in which, from which to move from one state to another state, it has to take some action. When it takes some action, it will be given a reward, right? That is how we that is how we formulated the reinforcement problem. Now, in a Markov decision process, the agent can perceive a set S of distinct states of its environment. In an environment, many valid states may be there, right? Say in this particular board state, or in another board state, or confronting the enemy's pawn, that board state. There may be various valid board states, right? So the agent can perceive a set S of distinct states of its environment and has a set of actions A that it can perform to move from that state to the next state. Now at each discrete time step T, At each discrete time step means at that particular point of time. At each discrete time step t, the agent senses the current state st. The agent knows about its current state st, chooses a current action at to move from that state and performs. It performs that particular action. Now the environment responds by giving the agent a reward. Okay, to move from one state, it has performed some action and the environment responds to the agent by giving a reward RT. And that RT is a function of the reward given, it can be represented as reward given at ST and action taken AT to move from that ST. To move from that state, what action is taken at point of time T? For that, a reward RT will be given by the environment. And by producing succeeding states, ST plus 1, what would be the next state? First state ST means the next state will be ST plus 1. That next state will be ST plus 2 as the time goes on, right? So the succeeding state S of T plus 1 can be represented as delta ST, comma AT. What is this delta? The change from ST to ST plus 1. That is the term delta. Delta denotes change. Change in what? From state ST to state ST plus 1. That is denoted by this delta. And that delta can be represented as set of current state and the action taken to move from the current state to this state ST plus 1. That is the next state ST plus 1. Here the functions delta and R are part of the environment and are not necessarily known to the agent. The delta, that is the step, the change from current state to next state, and the reward it can encounter by taking that particular step, those may not be known to the agent, may or may not be known to the agent. Now in an MDP, that is Markov decision process, the functions delta STAT and R STAT depend only on the current state and action and not on earlier states and actions. So what does this Markov decision process indicate? It tells us that change from current state by taking an action AT and reward encountered by moving from current state by taking an action AT, they are dependent only on the current state and action and not on earlier states and action. It is not dependent on ST minus 1 or it is not dependent on ST minus 2. It is just dependent on ST. ST plus 1 is just dependent on ST. It is not dependent on ST minus 1 or ST minus 2. Right? So what does this Markov decision process assume? It states that, not assume, it states that the current state is dependent on its previous state. The current state of a system is dependent on its immediately previous state. What is the immediately previous state of ST plus 1? ST. So it is dependent only on ST. It is not dependent on ST minus 1 or T minus 2. Now let us consider only the case in which S and A are finite. Let us, in real life scenario, number of states a robot can be in and number of actions it can take are infinite. It starts accumulating all those actions by reinforcement learning. But for simplicity, let us treat that S and A are finite. Finite set of states and finite set of actions. In general, delta, that is the change in the system state from one state to another state, delta, and R, the reward that it achieved, may be non-deterministic functions. Non-deterministic means delayed reward it does know what would be the reward by taking a particular action. So maybe non-deterministic functions, but we begin by considering only the deterministic cases. But again, for simplicity, in order to understand the concept, let us consider they are deterministic cases. We know what would be the reward when some action is taken. For simplicity, we are considering that. But in real time, we doesn't know what would be the reward when some action is taken by a robot. Okay, it has to learn by itself. If this is the action taken, this would be the reward. Yes, that is anticipated action. Otherwise, if it takes a particular action, no, it is getting a punishment. So that is not an anticipated action. That is how it understands. Now the task of agent is to learn a policy. Now what is the control policy that has to be learned? Pi, from which is mapped from state of set of states of the system and actions it can take to move from that state for selecting its next action AT based on the current observed state ST, that is pi of ST, means according to this control policy, to move from this ST, it has to take action AT. Only then it will receive a reward if that is mentioned. How shall we specify precisely which policy pi we would like the agent to learn? What control policy it has to learn? Highly rewarding control policy or highly penalizing control policy? One obvious approach is to require the policy that produces the greatest possible cumulative reward. What kind of policy has to be learned? What kind of control policy has to be learned? It should accumulate greatest possible reward for the robot over time. As the time passes on, it should take some actions which are highly rewarding, not highly penalizing. To state this requirement more precisely, we define the cumulative value V pi of S of t. V pi of S of t means the cumulative value of the rewards. Let us denote by capital V. Okay, so V pi means the cumulative value that can be accumulated by following the control policy pi to move from one state to another state, achieved by, yeah, that is what I said, by following a control policy pi from an arbitrary initial state ST. It can be represented like this. V, that is cumulative value of, by following a control policy pi to move from initial state S2 can be denoted as given by taking that step R2 plus reward given at the next step RT plus 1 at a next time stamp RT plus 1, then reward given at later time RT plus 2 and so on. Now what is this gamma? That gamma denotes delay in giving the reward. So this gamma value, as I said, lies between 0 and 1. So if the gamma value is lesser, then the reward is encountered immediately from the environment. If the gamma value is higher, then the rewards are discounted. They are not given completely. They are reduced. The value of the rewards will be reduced. That is why, did you notice, whenever gamma as bigger value, gamma square will be still bigger value. And when that bigger value is when that bigger value that bigger value indicates there is delay in giving this reward RT plus 2. RT is immediate reward. RT plus 1 is some delayed reward. RT plus 2 is still more delayed reward. So that for that this gamma square will indicate discount in that delayed reward, means lessening, reducing the priority of that reward. Okay, immediate reward will have high priority, delayed reward will have lesser priority. That is why gamma, if it is more, then it indicates delayed reward. So that gamma square will still more increase, reducing the reward given at a time step of t plus 2 rather than 2. Rather than t. The reward given at t plus 2 has lesser importance than reward given immediately at time t. Okay, that can be mathematically represented as summation of all the values I0 to infinity. I0 to infinity means you can take the time step 1, 2, 3 and so on. Immediate time is RT, next is t plus 1, next is t plus 2, like that. I equal to 0 to infinite time for all the values. If you consider gamma to the power of I, which will help us to reduce the importance to delayed rewards and give more importance to immediate rewards, multiplied by gamma to the power of I raised to the power of I multiplied by R t plus I. This I denotes the delay in the time. T is immediate time point. T plus 1 is delayed time. T plus 2 is still more delayed time. So I value increases, the time delay increases. So the quantity V pi of S defined by equation is often called the discounted cumulative reward. Did you understand now? It is called as discounted cumulative reward. As the time moves on, the delay in the reward will reduce its importance in the learning process. That is why it is called as discounted cumulative reward achieved by the control policy pi from initial state S. Now, it is reasonable to discount future rewards relative to immediate rewards because in many cases we prefer to obtain rewards sooner, right? As I gave you the example of being awarded with the prize money. If you receive the reward sooner, that will be preferred than receiving the reward later at a later time. Okay, that is how this mathematical representation works. Lesser importance is given to delayed rewards and more importance is given to immediate rewards. Now we are now in a position to state precisely the agent's learning task. Now we understood the entire scenario where this learning task has to be performed. Now we can easily state this in a brief manner. We require that the agent learn a policy pi, control policy pi, that maximizes V pi of S, means the cumulative value of rewards by following this control policy pi to move from set of states S should be maximized by having immediate rewards. So we'll call such a policy as optimal policy, right? That is called as the optimal policy and we denote it with pi star. Pi is called as control policy, pi star is called as optimal policy. Now in order to obtain this optimal policy, we have to maximize this control policy. We have to select a control policy, we have to select a control policy pi that maximizes the value of rewards accumulated by following this policy to move from each of the set of states, right? That is how we represent it finally like this. Pi star is nothing but a control policy which has to be maximized in order to get the maximum reward. To simplify notation, we will refer to the value function V pi star of S as simply V star of S, because this is little hard to represent. Hereafter, we'll use V star of S for optimal control policy. Okay, now this V star of S gives the maximum discounted cumulative reward that the agent can obtain starting from state S, that is the discounted cumulative reward obtained by following the optimal policy beginning at state S. Okay, so what would be the discounted cumulative reward if there is a delay in giving the reward? Or what would be the sum of rewards if they are given on time? All these will be put into a linear equation in order to arrive at an optimal control policy. Okay, what is the time? Yeah, already we have exceeded the time. I think we'll continue this part in the next class. Any doubts in this class, students? Did you understand? Because we have started a new concept, and this question is very important. Reinforcement learning. Though it is last topic, spare your interest. Do not leave it. Okay? It's very important because this is a new branch of research also in machine learning, that is reinforcement learning. So you have to understand the basic concepts of that. We'll continue in the next class. Bye.